Greetings, urban farmers, gardeners, and healthy food visionaries. Greg Peterson here, and welcome to the 294th episode of the Urban Farm Podcast, where 3 days a week we work together educating and inspiring you to become part of your food revolution. Growing plants that thrive in your yard is a lot easier than you think. It starts with saving your own seeds and letting them remember what they already learned. Just text SEEDS to 33444 or visit iwanttosaveseeds.com and you will receive our free webinar about why seeds matter, why saving them is easy, and how to save your own. Today on our podcast, we have a young millennial who has taken her passion for food to the next level. We're talking to Lyndsay Jacobs about her pathway to farmerhood. Lyndsay is a graduate of the Zenger Farm Internship Program, where she learned how to address food justice issues, develop efficiency and endurance in farming methods, and about best practices for chicken husbandry. She earned her degree in graphic design and interior architecture from James Madison University and is using that on marketing, branding, and design expertise for farm infrastructure. She received her Permaculture Design Certificate in Portland. Lyndsay and her business partner, Lauren, who was our guest on episode 293, run Sprout and Blossom Farm in Vancouver, Washington, combining their social and environmental justice passions with permaculture and sustainability-inspired practices for animal, plant, and human systems on their farm. Welcome to the show today, Lyndsay.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So I shared a bit about you. Can you fill in the blanks for us and share more about the path you took to get where you're at today?
Yeah, of course. So I'm originally from the East Coast. I grew up in Alexandria, Virginia, a suburb of Washington, D.C. And then from there, I studied at James Madison, as you said before. And after college, I kind of went and traveled for a bit abroad, and that's kind of when I found myself out here on the West Coast in Oregon. I had heard about woofing, and I'd always been somewhat interested in farming and learning more about farming, so I decided to spend some time on a woof farm. I spent about a summer just learning about small-scale farming in a more homesteady kind of environment, and that's when I met Lauren, and we decided with one other person that we wanted to move to Portland. As soon as I got to Portland, I kind of immersed myself in what the city has to offer in terms of sustainable agriculture and just like learning a lot more about holistic health and permaculture. So that's when I decided to take my PDC through City Repair and, connect with some like-minded individuals within the city. From there, I got even more interested in learning about farming in particular. And, that's when I found myself at Zenger Farm. I pretty much from there kind of opened up doors to a lot more things. I would say I have Lauren to thank for kind of making this connection so that we've been able to start this farm together. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's kind of been a very much learning experience, starting my own farm. I definitely, would never have guessed that at 26 I would be running my own business or farm. I kind of was just like, when the opportunity presented itself, it was kind of like, let's do this. How many people get this opportunity?
Yeah.
And like,
I think a lot of people have the opportunities. It's how many people actually grasp them and go for it.
Yeah.
So you should be commended for your willingness to see the opportunity and move forward with it.
Yeah, definitely was like a hard choice to make, but totally worth it.
Nice. So I want to actually rewind here because it seems like the permaculture design course came first, then Zenger Farm Internship came, and then this notion of starting your urban farm came to be. Is that the kind of the order in which things happened?
Yeah, and then I would say woofing in front of my permaculture design course.
So what was the inspiration that got this whole thing started? The woofing, because that's where you started this conversation, right? Is with the woofing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what was the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, I think that this might be a little bit dark, but we kind of live in a really scary world. And for me,
Amen to that.
and for me, the one thing that made sense to me was food, and, like food is life. And I've always been really interested in plants, but I never really, took the time to really understand how to grow food for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just really wanted to be able to live a more self-sufficient, sustainable life, be able to grow food for myself and then for, my loved ones and my friends as well.
Yeah.
So I think that is definitely what originally drove me into the path that I'm currently on.
Perfect. So then woofing came along. Woofing, for those of you who don't know it, it's WWOOF. What does it stand for?
Willing Workers on Organic Farm.
Yeah. Tell us about how that works.
Yeah. So for me, there's a website and you pay like small fee and then you have access to all these different woofing farms. It's kind of like Facebook for farms in a way.
Oh,
so
that's
each
a good
farm
way of
has
putting
their
it.
own. Yeah, each farm has their own profile. And I knew for me that I wanted to be in Oregon near Portland.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I started my search. And I found this amazing farm. It's called Fiddle Farm, right outside Hood River. And I contacted them and, said I'm interested in coming out, kind of gave them my timeline. And that's when they were like, yeah, we would love to have you. They asked me a few questions, and then I packed up my car from Virginia and just drove out here.
Wow,
and
that's pretty
left.
brave.
Yeah. I remember texting one of my friends right before I got to the farm and being like, if you don't hear from me in an hour, this is where I am. I just had no idea what to expect,
Right.
But it turned out to be like a really amazing experience.
Nice. Okay, good. So then fast forward some amount of time and you hear about this term called permaculture and you decide to take a PDC, which is a permaculture design course. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I did mine in Portland through City Repair, which is like a really great organization. Permaculture. In the simplest terms, working with nature and not against it. I feel like another big part of permaculture for me is connecting with community, working with others.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a definition for permaculture that you've created?
I wouldn't say necessarily that I've created. I think kind of what I just said, working with nature and not against it and kind of giving back instead of taking.
Yeah.
And, thinking more about the big picture and not about just the short term.
Perfect. I like to define permaculture when people ask me the art and science of working with nature. How do we work in the flow of nature rather than against nature?
Mm-hmm.
So then comes Zenger Farm's Internship Program. What is that? I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, so Zenger Farm, they are an educational nonprofit in Southeast Portland, and among all their programs, they have an internship program where essentially they are training the future farmers of America, I would say. You work with, I had 2 managers and a crew, 3 other people, and pretty much giving you all the tools to, do what I've done, start my own farm. They emphasize, endurance and speed and being mindful, and I would say it was pretty, they're very tough on me, but also, without them, I don't think I would be the farmer that I am.
Yeah.
As well as just farming, they're addressing lots of issues of food justice. Their mission is food for all. They have a bunch of grant programs where they're working with low-income families. They're working with health clinics that prescribe CSA shares. They're just a really, really amazing and inspiring organization to work for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on their webpage, Zenger, Zenger farm.org. And it says, we are a working urban farm that models, promotes, and educates about sustainable food systems, environmental stewardship, community development, and access to good food for all. How nice is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they definitely, I would say, very true to what their word, they're really doing it.
Nice. Cool. So when we had Lauren on, we talked about the community interface of your farm. And what I want to talk with you about today is how did the farm come about and what's it look like? So let's stand at the front entrance of the farm and tell me, what does it look like? Give me a mental picture of what you have there.
Yeah. So, well, we're really lucky. Our farm is on Vancouver Lake. So in the far distance, you're going to see a farmhouse in the lake. And then, as you enter the property, there's 3 really old Italian plum trees. And we have our chickens. We have a flock of 24 hens, and then we have a rooster. We built a mobile chicken coop on an old boat trailer. So it's movable.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. It's actually like I would say it's a work of art. It's beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then we have a couple different fields going on. We have our main plot, which is named Jupiter. And it's got all of our tomatoes and beets and carrots. We've kind of developed more of a permanent bed structure. So we have raised beds where we've dug out our pathways, and then we're focusing on building up each individual bed. We use I think over 60 yards of compost and,
wow.
Adding them. Yeah, a lot of compost, as well as amendments and things like that. So I think that is a little bit different approach to most farms. We're not using any machinery, really. We rented a sod cutter in the beginning and borrowed a BCS tiller. But other than that, we're just doing everything by hand.
Yeah, cool. So Lauren mentioned the sod cutter, and I knew that you and I were going to be talking more logistics of how the farm came to be. So I waited to ask you about the sod cutter. What was the sod cutter for?
Yeah, so when we first got to this property, pretty much everything was lawn, aside from a little bit of garden space on one part of the property. So we kind of decided that we didn't want to be working against the grass throughout the whole season, that we were going to remove it. So we rented a sod cutter in the rain, or it was maybe one of the only dry days. We cut all the sods really quickly, and then in the rain we rolled it all up, and we moved it, and we were able to create some berms throughout the property, kind of like a Hugo Culture berm. We layered in, sticks and logs, and then we added sod, and then we did sheet mulching, putting cardboard, and then more compost. So kind of building up those kind of systems. And yeah, we sod cutted a bunch of different plots. And then from there, as I just sort of explained to you, we went into the raised beds, building our raised beds.
Excellent. So this sod that you cut out of there, what did you do with it?
We made the berms. So we have berms throughout the property. We also had a little bit of fun with it. We made a sod couch.
Oh, nice.
Giant sod couch. It's pretty amazing. And then, yeah, that's pretty much where most of it all went. It was cool that we were able to, and our neighbor borrowed or took a bunch of it off of our hands to build up her pond or something.
Cool.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know what a sod cutter basically is, a machine that will come in and take 1.5 inches of top off of your lawn, and it's a great way to eradicate grass from the space. So as long as you're not dealing with Bermuda grass, if you're dealing with Bermuda or some other invasive species like nutgrass, it doesn't work so well. But so it sounds to me like it worked pretty well for you, though.
It did. It worked really well. And then the beds that we didn't use a sod cutter, we've definitely been fighting the grass.
Yeah.
Way more.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
It was the right decision.
So you also said something. You said Hugo Culture. Tell us a little more about that. That's a word that everybody may not know.
Yeah, so it's kind of let's see if I can explain this well. Just layering of different materials to kind of create this bed, I guess, that breaks down and decomposes over time, and it can contain and hold on to moisture. It's kind of a more beneficial environment to be planting plants in. I would say most people would be planting more perennial crops on their agriculture beds. So that's kind of what we've done.
Basically what you're doing is you're burying logs and wood under the ground and letting it rot over time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Should have been more direct with that.
And how's that working?
Yeah, it's been working from what I can tell well. It seems like things are slowly starting to decompose, and the things that we have planted on the berm seem really healthy and happy.
Yeah.
So,
Super amazing how that works, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's nice because it adds a little bit more dimension to the farm instead of everything just being so flat.
Yeah, exactly. So, Lyndsay, what are you actually growing at this point, and what's your distribution for it? What are you doing with it?
Yeah, so we're growing, I would say, pretty much a little bit of everything. You know, we're growing tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, beets, carrots, all different types of greens. We have some fruit trees on the property, as well as herbs, perennial herbs, cucumbers, corn, melons, squash. Because we kind of have a 3-tier model, and we're doing a CSA, so it stands for Community Supported Agriculture,
Nice.
where we have people who come and pick up a weekly box of produce.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also do farmers market. So we do 2 different markets through the Vancouver's Farmers Market, and as well as we are doing some wholesale. So we have made some connections with local restaurants and some small grocery stores and co-ops within Vancouver and Portland.
Beautiful. Yeah, when I was in college, I went back to college late in life, and when I was in college from 99 to 03, I truck farmed my front and backyards. And my 2 favorite things to do were go to the farmer's market, and then anything that I had left over from the farmer's market, I took it over to my friend Susan, who owned a small restaurant here in town, and I would just take whatever I had left over to her, and she'd feed me lunch. So
That sounds awesome.
yeah. Yeah. So in looking at your life landscape and your farm landscape, tell me something that just really makes you pause and take a deep breath and say, oh my gosh, I am doing the right thing with my life.
Yeah. I mean, I get to wake up every morning and walk around my farm and, see things growing. I mean, yeah, it's just beautiful to be able to just be outside every day and kind of look around. And at least for me, like, we started with literally nothing. Like, it was a big blank canvas. And now we have, this, I would say, very, productive farm that, Lauren and I have pretty much created on our own, with the help of, our amazing friends and community. But it just sort of takes my breath away every time I get to look at it.
Very
it's
nice.
really amazing.
So you live on site?
I do. I live at the farm. I actually live in a tiny house on the property.
Whoa. On a real tiny house?
Mm-hmm.
How big is
in a
it?
tiny house.
How big is it?
Oh, gosh. I think it's on the bigger side. It's maybe 26 feet long. It's on an old trailer. Yeah.
Oh, very good.
I can't take much credit. It's not necessarily my tiny house. It's the people who own the land tiny house. But.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. So I'm going to shift on you, and I'd like for you to talk about a time you failed, how you overcame that failure, and what you might have learned from it.
Yeah. So I think, like any new business, organization is key and something that I feel as though we might have failed a little bit on or is lacking in our business this year. So whether we didn't really have a crop plan, it's hard,
Really important. Yep.
Yeah. So I would just say organization in terms of actually having a crop plan and, record keeping and labeling all your beds. It's also just can be difficult to just kind of, when you're working for yourself, to stay focused. So I think I could be easily distracted and sometimes not as efficient with my time.
Yeah. My team and I call those frisbees. Somebody throws us a frisbee and we're going off chasing the frisbee. Oh, yeah. Welcome to our world. So.
Yeah.
So what do you consider your biggest success?
Yeah. So definitely just all the positive feedback and support that we've gotten from our community. Yeah, it's really, really empowering, like just how many people really genuinely care about Sprout and Blossom and are willing to help. Yeah, it's just like, it makes me so happy to see like all of these people. You know, we've participated in speaking at Slow Foods last week, Lauren and I. We've done a bunch of farm-to-table dinners. Yeah, and even just like at the farmer's market, just like local chefs just stopping by and saying hi. You know, just like people, like so many people just being so proud of what we're doing. It's just, yeah, I can't really put into words how happy it makes me feel. Just all the amazing, feedback we've been getting.
Well, cool. And what drives you?
Oh, yeah. I kind of talked about it a little bit before, but just, you know, food and food is life, and being able to grow food for not only myself, but for the people that I love. And yeah, not only just like, I think it's really, really important to give back to Mother Earth and give back to the community. And I found that through food and growing food, that is the way that I can give back the most.
Nice. Nice. If you could recommend one book for our listeners, what would it be and why?
Yeah, so I'm going to go kind of towards the farming realm of things. And for me, Guy's Garden was like a very influential book by Tommy Hemingway. Yeah, it definitely was like my first taste of permaculture. And yeah, I think it's just had a great impact on me and very helpful.
Yeah, so for information on Toby on our podcast, we had him. He has since passed away, unfortunately, almost a year ago now, but about a year and a half ago, we had him on the podcast. So if you type in Toby in the search bar at urbanfarmpodcast.com, you'll find an interview with Toby. So what one final piece of advice do you have for our listeners?
Yeah, so it kind of might come off like a little bit cliche, but do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I just think it's really important to find what you love and, you know, focus your energy into that and into your interest, and just like don't sell yourself short, like just because you feel like you have to take one path. Like really stay true to yourself, and you know, you'll find what makes sense to you. And it's always changing. Like, yeah, I'm farming right now, but it could change, and like that's okay. Just stay true to yourself and do what makes you happy, and do it with integrity.
As I like to say, farm out for that one. Definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Lyndsay.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So how can our listeners get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can find my farm, sproutandblossomfarm.com, as well as on Instagram. It's the same Sprout and Blossom Farm. You could also find my personal Instagram. It's Lyndsay Jacobs. And yeah, just reach out to me. I also have Facebook. Any of those work.
Perfect. You can also find show notes from today's podcast at urbanfarm.org/blossom. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us on the Urban Farm Podcast. Growing plants that thrive in your yard is a lot easier than you think. It starts with saving your own seeds and letting them remember what they already learned. Just text SEEDS to 33444 or visit iwanttosaveseeds.com and you will receive our free webinar about why seeds matter, why saving them is easy, and how to save your own.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Urban Farm Podcast. Remember to listen 3 days a week for tips, advice, and resources to help you on your journey with urban farming. You can find us on the web at urbanfarm.org or send us an email to podcast@urbanfarm.org. In the words of Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Be encouraged that with each lesson learned and skill developed, you are one step closer in the direction of your dreams.